So good afternoon, everyone. I welcome all of our attendees who have joined us on YouTube for today's Qbinar, that is quarantine webinars, which will be led by industry and HR leaders on pandemic or not, securing employees' mental well-being. Prior to starting today's discussion, just a note to the attendees on YouTube, we will be conducting a Q&A session towards the end of the discussion. So if you have any queries, please send in your questions using the chat box on YouTube, and on your behalf, I will direct those questions to specific speakers. You could also send us an email either to Mr. Vivek Shastri or to me with your questions. Another point to note is please subscribe to the Creating Values YouTube channel, and you will receive information about our upcoming Qbinars and other events that we will be conducting. So with that, let's start. I will soon request the speakers to turn on their camera and to unmute themselves. But prior to that, I wish to give an introduction about our company to the attendees who have joined us. Creating Values is an ISO certified management consulting firm, and we provide strategic advisory services to organizations across industries. The domains through which we operate or we provide our advisory services include people and culture, which is our HR advisory arm, technology and risk is our IT consulting arm, business strategy consulting, and brand strategy consulting. We have also successfully launched executive search services a few months ago and have been able to close critical positions for several companies and are currently working on several live positions. So if you have queries about any of our services, kindly reach out to us. A reminder to our attendees about our next Qbinar, which is scheduled on 3rd of July at 4 p.m. Succeeding in a volatile world, business and sales priorities. So for this, we will be joined by the C-suite of various organizations. They could be CEOs, CFOs, COOs, and they will be talking about how shall companies, revamp and revive their sales sooner than later, and how have they been able to successfully do so in their own organizations. So please join us on 3rd of July at 4 p.m. for the Qbinar Succeeding in a Volatile World, Business and Sales Priorities. So with that, I would request our speakers to kindly turn on their cameras and soon I will request you to unmute yourself, but for now you could only turn on your cameras. So I welcome our esteemed speakers. We have with us Ms. Simin Askari. She is the Vice President Corporate HR at DS Group. She firmly believes in HR's role as the strategic partner for enabling the business vision and establishing a shared goal amongst all the stakeholders. She leads the strategy for workforce planning, budgeting, succession planning, training and development, etc., for diverse workforce across businesses. Our next speaker is Mr. Sanjeev Tripathi. He is leading the HR function for Osram Lighting Private Limited. He has rich and diverse experience in HR with prestigious MNC and Indian organizations in retail, hospitality, and manufacturing setup. Having successful track record for handling comprehensive HR and IR responsibilities and end-to-end employee life cycle. We have also been joined by Ms. Indrani Ghosh. She is heading Organization Development for Enterprise Growth Accelerator, a seasoned HR thought leader with extensive experience across multinational, Indian, startup, and consulting organizations, consistently demonstrated success in HR business partnering, talent acquisition, organization design and effectiveness, and change management, to name a few. Today's panel discussion will focus on the recently defined need for organizations to have an ongoing strategy for the upkeep of employees' psychological health. These unprecedented times have certainly reframed the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which earlier focused on fulfilling the higher order needs of self-esteem and self-actualization, but now the focus has shifted to our safety needs. In organization, this has mostly been viewed in terms of the need for physical safety, wherein psychological safety needs often take a backseat. However, this COVID-19 situation and the subsequent lockdown has brought employee mental well-being to the center stage. And today we would be shedding some light on topics like cabin fever, anxiety and depression at workplace, burnout, etc. Cabin fever refers to the distressing irritability or restlessness experienced when a person is stuck at an isolated location or in confined quarters for an extended period of time. As per articles published in Economic Times based on some studies, it is alarming that 42.5% of the employees in the private sector of corporate India suffer from depression or some form of anxiety disorder. That's almost every second person. World Health Organization had estimated that India may suffer economic losses amounting to a staggering $1.03 trillion from mental health conditions between 2012 and 2030. The general signs of anxiety or depression that are often seen at workplaces are isolation from others, skipping work, difficulty faced in concentrating and making decisions, fatigue, poor performance, excessive and constant worry, turning down assignments because of fear of failure, to name a few. Another aspect to understand is that of burnout. It strikes employees when they have exhausted their physical and emotional strength. This usually occurs as a result of chronic work-related stress. A major cause of burnout is losing a sense of the basic purpose and the fulfillment of your work. Some of the telltale signs of employee burnout are exhaustion, apparent mood issues, accidents and missing days, and lower levels of engagement, to name a few. So with this context, let's start with our discussion for today. I will now direct some focused questions to our speakers, and the initial set of questions I will direct to Ms. Siman, followed by Mr. Sanjeev Tripathi. So Ms. Siman, I would request you to kindly unmute yourself. Thank you. So Ms. Siman, the COVID-19 pandemic motivated companies to implement work from home, keeping the physical safety of employees in mind. Then the discussions move towards the psychological health aspect of employees. Please share some of the measures that were taken in your company during the initial months of the lockdown.
So yeah, thank you so much, Sujata. I think it's a very, very relevant topic, and a topic that is being discussed within organizations and amongst peers as well. Employee well-being, especially mental well-being, along with physical well-being, is something that is of prime importance, and a lot of organizations have been taking a lot of steps for that. Now, having said that, this current pandemic has actually taken a lot of us by surprise. Not everybody was prepared for what was in store for us, but I think the way we have reacted and the way we have sort of overcome this challenge has been commendable for most of us. I mean, say for most companies. Initially, when this lockdown happened, there was, like, for example, an organization like ours, which is a manufacturing setup, sales and manufacturing driven organization, not everybody was equipped to be working from home. So the very fact that HR and IT, I would say together, had to make efforts in ensuring that we made people productive by providing them infrastructure, by providing them guidelines, by providing SOPs as to how to manage working from home. Initially, the first couple of days was spent in that. And slowly people started getting used to it. Slowly we started making sure that there is a certain routine in place. Teams understand that it's not an off period. It is actually, you need to be working. And so how do you need to be working? How are you monitoring the performances of your teams? How do you make sure that you're focusing on the deliverables and not the activities that are happening. For a lot of us, actually, we were in that, in that frame of mind that unless a person is sitting in front of us, we didn't realize that he's working. So for a lot of people, it was I would say, a change in their own attitudes as to how should they figure out whether their team member is being effective or not, right? A lot happened during this period also, like, while we did ensure that people started working from home, but there were a lot of challenges that people were facing at home also. Not everybody has the infrastructure to be able to work from home. Not everybody is, like, there could be so many family members staying, there could be small children, who are there. So how do you make sure that, you get your own little space for that period of time to be working without a hindrance was becoming a challenge. Initial couple of days, obviously, when the lockdown was at its initial peak, then people didn't have any help also. So you had the double whammy of, working for home and working for the office. So together it was too much. And I think the stress level sort of started growing up there. I mean, it started there because, you're handling the house with no maids, no extra help, coming to you. And you're also managing to ensure that you are completing your work assignments in place. What also started happening was, that because the managers felt that, the team member is at home, they forgot, and the time boundaries, started getting blurred. So you could get a call at, any number of, at any time in the day. Whereas, when we were working from the premises of the office, once you leave office, you know that this is your me time, and you will normally not get a call from office. Now the case is not like that. So, you'll have people who may be, connecting with you at odd hours, and also HR needed to ensure, telling people that, this is not okay. You need to maintain certain boundaries. If you do this, this is what is going to happen to your team member. So I think the initial time was when we had to set the rules for this new normal of working, the way we are now working. I'm happy to say that we've all adapted. I'm sure my co-panelists are going to share the same with you, that we've adopted very well to this new normal. We are now quite comfortable with the different collaboration tools that are available with us. I would say that, initially for me, I would say that, it was very difficult to convince any of my HODs, okay, let's take a Skype interview or let's take a virtual interview. They would say, nahi, wo baat nahi hoti na, unless samne aadmi nahi aake baithega, you wouldn't know. Now we are doing it all the time. I mean, this is how we are conducting all meetings. Everything is happening. Frankly, one good thing that has emerged is that you started a meeting at 4 o'clock sharp, everybody was there. In the office, you needed to call everyone, okay, please come, meeting is starting, please come and, come and sit. And फिर उसके बाद चाय होती थी, फिर उसके बाद start करते थे. So, all those inefficiencies, I think, have sort of gone away. So good things, bad things, both ways. And I think in terms of the way the organizations have adapted, it's been pretty quick and it's been pretty positive. We have tried to make do with whatever we've had, and we've tried to make sure that our people remain calm, remain healthy, remain positive, and remain motivated throughout this period. So yeah.
Sure. Thank you, Ms. Simin. In fact, quite nicely put and quite concisely, put. So with that, I would direct the same question to Mr. Sanjeev Tripathi, especially what were the measures that were taken in your company when it comes to, the psychological or the mental well-being of employees during the initial months of the lockdown. Mr. Tripathi, to you.
Sure. Thank you, Sujata, and thank you, co-panelists. And see, in our, am I audible to all, Sujata? Can you confirm me? If
yes, you are.
Yeah.
Please.
In our case, the picture was little more larger because of our nature of businesses being a multinational organization operating close to 100 countries. So we got to know about this when the similar thing happened in China. And from there, we got some sense about that. We have our task force established out in India. We started reviewing daily. our couple of people are internationally, they are into the delegation. So from there, we're also getting the news. So we started little early. I think we were a couple of first who has made compulsory work from home for all. We have work from home strategy as a policy, and we adopt flexibility and flexible working hours, and work from home is very normal thing for us. So we have made it compulsory. The task force started meeting on daily, and we have made the regional task force and started the reviewing. Whereas, having said this, it was our proactive approach. At the same time, we did also contacted our business partners, because if at the end of the day, we will have to ensure that how business is on. So we contacted our business partners, we discussed with them, and we proactively tried to visualize what business would be, how business would be. So likewise, our warehouses were alarmed, our head of the departments alarmed, our people were alarmed that please do not travel. Please do not, travels are kept stopped. And at the same time, the human resources function and facilities function we started negotiating with the medical partner of ours. So we got COVID incorporated into our medical plan, intimated to all. So our people were informed that there is an agency. I'd tell you, when we were a couple of first who got our COVID coverage into our medical plan. Then when we one fine day, I read an article that out of the total COVID treatment, the 50% cost is PPE kit. So we connected back to the partner and got the PPE kit also covered into the reimbursement. And I'm happy to share you that 2 weeks back, we have taken a policy called for the home quarantine, home isolation. So nowadays, given this scenario, everyone is not really forced to come to hospitals. So the situations are there. One has to get treated from the house. So we got home isolation covered as well. Now, coming to the second part of your question, Sujata, how we try to be with the mentally our people engaged. So we always believe belongingness of our people. We are happy to share that we have got retention percentage in our organization. We have very employee friendly policies. We have good reach of the HR and the people, and to the different forums people are connected. So we started engaging with the people on these front as well, while checking about their family, while talking about with them, asking them please do not travel, advising them to visualize how the business would be if any situation get disturbed. So by this way, we are able to handle it, touch wood, finally, nicely. Our people are safe. Business is of course impacted, but we are very much doing not very bad. And the good part is that I keep getting messages from my people. They say they look forward for coming to the office, and we keep saying them, please don't come. Please don't come unless you really required to visit. So this is what we are doing, and we managed the entire this scenario.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Tripathi. A very good point touched upon by you, although it was about physical safety, but a very valid point that yes, organizations can also contact their insurance companies, the ones that cover their employees, and get COVID-19 related aspects incorporated in the current plan. So that's a very good thing. And secondly, what Ms. Simmons said is absolutely right, balancing between the work of home and then working for the organization. Especially, it happens that women have this, this is a very widely studied topic, that women have this superwoman syndrome, that they feel that they are the ones who have to drive it from the front and should not ask for help. So that does happen a lot with women. So I hope women take a note of this and they do not drive themselves, to to the point of burnouts while managing home as well as the official work. So with that note, I'll move to my next question, and I would request Ms. Indrani to first answer this question. Then we will move to Ms. Simon for the same. So Ms. Indrani, line managers or the reporting managers per se, they are generally the first ones to see any deviations or some symptoms with regards to any kind of anxiety or depression. So how has the organization trained the reporting managers in terms of identifying such scenarios early and then assisting the employees thereon? So what do managers need to be aware of in terms of employees' psychological well-being?
Right. Thanks, Sujata. I must agree with Simon that this is really a burning issue that you have picked up. And I think we from the HR fraternity, we have known it for quite some time that yes, anxiety, depression, etc. are really a part of life. But then suddenly the COVID-19 really, I think, brought about a scenario wherein this has now become a burning issue and everybody kind of agrees to its existence and that we have to be a part in the solution for it. Now, so, I would say that, humans are resistant to change, but then we can still handle change. But when it comes to uncertainty, I think we really don't do well with uncertainty. And currently, with the enormous uncertainty that everyone's facing economically, personally, professionally, the issues of mental health surfacing are, as I mentioned, it's predictable and it's alarming as well. Now, the first thing for managers, first to be empathetic, one needs to understand the impact that this adversity will have on employees' mental health. So to a simple question like, how does a 60-day, 90-day lockdown, wherein a person is just confined in the room, all that we can do is just maybe step out for grocery and essentials and again come back. And so how does this impact the human spirit? Does it give rise to anxiety for employees? Does it impact efficiency? And the answer is a profound yes. And as organizations, I think we have to overcome it, steer our employees towards efficiency. And as you were rightly mentioning, Sujata, about the cabin fever. So psychologists agree that when a person or a group is stranded or is stuck in an isolated location, they experience irritability, restlessness. Other behavioral aspects might include melancholy, restlessness, boredom, fatigue, trouble in concentrating, lack of patience, frequent napping, decreased motivation. So all of it is something that maybe today or tomorrow we might see our employees facing. Now, we as an organization already had a work from home policy. However, collectively as a team, we kind of preempted that this might again be an issue that we will soon face. To be honest, like Simon was also mentioning, even though we were pushing that, yes, work from home is something that has to be adopted, many employees came back to us and said, घर से काम कैसे होगा? So, how do we just be at our work, at our homes and do the work? So we started with a series of communications, first addressed to all employees, that how can you actually operate efficiently from home? So, and these were pretty detailed conversations. We even discussed about identifying a corner of your home, which you could call your workspace for the next, 30 days or 40 days. And, a start time and an end time, because for us, we work US hours and we overlap to meet our US colleagues as well. So suddenly people were all awake till about 12 and 1 and 2 and trying to answer mails and all of that. So we again went back to our manager. So we had a collective call and we said that, hey, you have to now do regular calls with your team members. Definitely not offshore it to the HR department only, because at the end of the day, you're responsible for your teams as well. And we spoke about 2-3 concrete steps. One was break the ice. So apart from just functional meetings, you also need to know how your team members are doing. So just saying a hello once in a while is a good thought. And so that was the first one. And another part that we wanted our leaders or managers to do is demonstrate supportive listening. So just don't do a call just for the heck of it, a checkbox, but also show them how are you personally handling this new normal, because again we are in the same boat. I mean, we are not superhumans and we experience the same anxiety sometimes, same stress. We have children and we have homework and we have cleaning and all of that thing that a normal person is doing. So um, relating to the other team members that yes, I am also in the same boat, and together let's collect our intelligences and identify what is a better method to do this, is a better way of supporting each other and being consistent. So when we talk about these things, and we understand that yes, people might be emotionally feeling low, they might have sick members in the home, they might have kids, and so on and so forth. So but this can't be just a one-off conversation. We have to be consistent with the needs. There are examples wherein people were upset because they had a sick pet and they were not able to take it to the vet. So those kind of conversations, so people have to be empathetic towards those conversations as well. So so to go back to your question, these were the various things that we were doing with our leaders and team managers, that yes, these are the items that you have to do every week so as to ensure that we maintain a cohesive team, and we don't allow them to get emotionally bogged down with this lockdown period.
Sure. Thank you, Ms. Indrani. So, Ms. Simon, the same question to you. Maybe certain responses in line with the proactive measures and certain reactive measures, especially because line managers are the ones who would be witnessing certain symptoms right up front. They are the first ones to be in touch with their reportees. So then what is it that, you as an organization have sensitized your line managers about?
So you're absolutely right, Sujata, that it's usually your immediate superior who would notice a difference in your way of working, or your health, or your the way you communicate, anything like that. The first person to notice would be your immediate superior, who has a direct connect with you. Now, as my co-panelists have said themselves, initial few days, what we were doing is making sure that people understood what work from home means, and how are you going to ensure that your team members are productive. How are you going to ensure that there is a set routine in place, that you are able to measure performance, that you are constantly in touch. After that, that's when we started realizing that this lockdown is stretching and people are getting stressed up, and there's anxiety, and there were certain calls that HR would get about a lot of different aspects. And that's when we decided that we need to start preparing the line managers also to be able to deal with it, or not just let it be an HR domain. I think this period has been pretty significant, I would say, in the way HR is now perceived. So we are now truly strategic partners to the business A. Now, this pandemic has actually changed all of that. We are now the coaches, the mentors, the psychologists, the shoulder to cry on, everything rolled into one, HR people, right? And so anything and everything, wherever anything is going wrong, you'll be the first one anyone would want to come to. But we decided that, it's important that the line managers are given some sort of, I won't really call it training per se, but some sort of a guideline or tips on how to manage this. And for that, what we did is we started off with micro learnings. Okay, we started off with certain trainings which are related to behavioral aspects, especially empathy, this is something that is going to be, the most important factor. If you're able to empathize with your coworker, that is when you actually realize what is happening in his life, right? We gave them guidelines as to, it's not just about a meeting, it's about setting a routine, it's about having your team members note down exactly what they have done through the day, through the week, and then connecting with them. We also advise team members and HODs and their team leads to start something like a virtual coffee session together. So set up a time aside, make sure everybody comes on a platform like say Zoom, or we have WebEx, so we usually do it on WebEx. So come on WebEx, everybody sit together. You don't have to really discuss anything related to work. It could be just an informal chat. So communication is the key, when you are trying to ensure that, your co-workers or your team members are mentally, not stressed out. Their mental well-being is at your prime, of thought. That is what you try to do, communicate as much as possible. Now, what also used to happen is, when we used to have WebEx meetings, people would turn off their cameras. Okay. This is a very, very common phenomenon, because, you may be sitting in your pajamas and you really don't want anyone to see you, and you are, actually taking a special. So we came back and told everyone that, listen, this is your office hour. Treat it as though you're going to work. So please be dressed properly, sit in front, open up your cameras. When you are talking directly to somebody and they can see your face, that's when they actually can see how you're reacting. They know that you're actively listening. If you're not around on the camera, that's, you may be dozing off for all you know. So this was, one little tip that we gave to people. And I think that improved the communication aspect, and that does give a comfort. If I'm able to see you, then although you're not really in front of me in the room, but at least I can sense some physical presence. And that physical presence of somebody is extremely important, especially for people who are actually staying alone. That was, I think it would have been the most difficult time for those people, like people who are staying in a rented apartment, their parents, or they're not married maybe, and they are young people, confined to a room. I think that was really difficult. So looking at somebody, talking to somebody, even though if it is on a screen, I think that helps. So yeah, that's all what we do.
Sure, thank you. In fact, very important points that you have shared, Ms. Simon. First of all, yes, actually training the line managers even on an aspect such as empathy, although it sounds something so regular, so simplistic, but it's the most difficult thing to practice and to actually have it virtually. So that's a very important thing that you've touched upon, and something so simple as just have video chats. And don't do these things, although everyone in our Qbinars has been talking about the importance of communication, and yes, it is important, certainly is. However, don't do these things just for the heck of doing it, but do it with, put in genuine effort so that the actual objective can be met. Something so simple as just keeping your camera on when you're speaking to a team member, because that brings in a connect. That doesn't make you feel like, you're really distant from each other, and that would help in, in better collaboration and would enhance productivity. So that is another aspect that line managers should need to take a note of. So thank you for that. A reminder to all of our attendees, please send in your questions either through emails to Vivek or me, or you could send us your questions using the chat box on YouTube, and on your behalf, I'll ask those questions to our speakers here. So with that, I will move to our next question, and I will direct that question to Mr. Sanjeev Tripathi. Mr. Tripathi, like one of our co-panelists has already, touched upon it earlier, that when it comes to work from home, sometimes the boundaries of where does your working hours stop and where does your personal life start, those boundaries get blurred. So employees end up working more hours when they are working from home. So doesn't that, so relatively, the mental health problems would make it counterproductive. So how can organizations overcome such issues? Your views on it?
Yes, so in such a scenario, when the entire business is going to be global, and in this new era, having this tech spread, almost all the organizations, be it domestic, be it multinational, they will have to deal with it while dealing with the employees or partners or other stakeholders or vendors. In such a scenario, I guess flexibility, we believe the flexibility is key factor. So like somebody is perceiving that he's been work little on extra time or awkward time he's not comfortable with. At the same time, he also knows that if I have opened my office at 7 for a call with, let's take an example with China, who is 2.5 hours ahead of us, or Malaysia, who is again 2.5 hours, 3 hours ahead of us, he knows that I can have a comfort and nobody would question it. So here, in this scenario, if organization is focused on KPI and such a scenario, and at the end of the day, people are, and I'm connecting with the co-panelist of mine, people are equally engaged with the belongingness and emotional attachment. So they know that it doesn't matter when I'm working, they know that I'm working, my delivery is my deliverables are expected like this, and I'm achieving that. And at the end of the day, my manager is informed. At the same time, they are also connected with their team member. So this doesn't matter. In our case, I would say the kind of organization we are in, our global office starts 4 hours before than us. Sorry, we start 4 hours before than them, and my Asia Pacific office is 3 hours ahead of us, and we all have to manage. So it's not the case. When you are really driven, you are able to imbibe required engagement in place and belongingness in place. People really feel. Sometimes the young chap, my organization is young organization, not a young guy. They enjoy these dynamics, and personally they come to ask us that, boss, I really enjoyed that. I did my meeting at 7 a.m. Then I had my some personal engagement during this hour, and they are very vocal. They would say that this time to this time I'm little engaged on my personal thing. Can we shift our local calls later? So we are being accommodative, and by this way, employees are also getting into new normal. They know that they will have to learn with all these things, and things are getting into the routine.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Tripathi. In fact, very rightly said, flexibility is something that can help employees, work with in this new normal. So that is something that organizations can extend and also encourage and celebrate if employees enjoy it. So that is a very good thought. So with that, I will move to my next question. I'll direct it to first Ms. Indrani and then to Mr. Sanjeev again. So Ms. Indrani, with all the taboo around psychological problems, how can organizations help an employee who's actually in the need of support? Ms. Indrani, you're on mute.
Okay. So interestingly, Sujata, unfortunately, in our society, no one ever says, "Oh, it's just tuberculosis, just get over it." But the same is not the case when someone is suffering from a mental disorder or illness. So even things like if someone says, "I'm feeling a little depressed," I have examples wherein a person has been told, "Ye koi umar hai depression ki." So the thing is, we ourselves are responsible for making this become a taboo. So mental disorder is not shameful, but it has become a stigma. And with stigma, what happens is it aggravates the condition of people who are suffering from this mental illness. Now, so first of all, I think we should not be expecting our employees to be at the top of their game amidst the disruption that is currently happening. And if we do expect that, I think we are nothing short of being naive. So, and it is also important to understand that individual differences in personality and the nature of the job role will also play a role in how this period of uncertainty impacts an employee's mental health. So as organizations, balancing economics with empathy should be the ideal standpoint which we can take to tide over these turbulent times. Because we also have to ensure continuity of business. So the business has to go on. But in all of this, we still have to remember that, they are human at the end of the day. And honestly, the indirect costs of mental health disorders, particularly the loss of productivity, will exceed the spendings on direct costs like health insurance contributions. So that is something that that is important for organizations to remember. Like Sanjeev pointed out, that they have, they got the COVID into the health insurance as well. Now, another thing, to just erase it as a taboo, employees also need to know that they are not alone, and it is human to feel stressed out or anxious or insecure sometimes. And another interesting item that we are planning to start in our own organizations is work peer counselors. So, of course, the disclaimer here is that these are not counselors per se, and in case we have employees who might be mildly suffering from situations of stress or anxiety, these are volunteers from within the business units or departments, and they have volunteered because they feel that they have resilience and empathy and hope and gratitude, and are willing to volunteer their time and interact with their peers or other employees. This is not related to work. It is just, these are volunteers wherein you can reach out. Just maybe they will offer a sounding board. They will just offer a discussion forum. And that's about it. And we feel that this might be a way wherein we could just help each other in these times, and try to relax the taboo that is associated with the employees talking about mental illness, or a simple thing that I am facing depression, or I'm feeling anxiety. So just to take that taboo away, this is what we have planned.
Sure. Thank you, Ms. Indrani. And in fact, so wonderfully explained that if someone says that I have tuberculosis, you would not say just get over with it. So that's actually so simply put and so clearly explained. Thank you for that. So Mr. Tripathi, the same question to you, that because there is a lot of stigma or taboo attached, associated with psychological problems that employees might be facing, how are you ensuring that first of all, they approach you openly for help? And once they do, then how can the organization help them tackle the issue that they are currently in?
I'll answer your question in two parts, Sujata. And first part is how the human psyche is all about. So as we know that, and the Edward de Bono on his famous book of six thinking hats says that there are three components of, and of course the WHO also established that there are the physical, mental, and emotional. These three well-beings are required for any individual to function properly. Physical, we all know that it's easy to understand. Here, when we have, especially in our organization, transparency and belongingness is one of the critical core factors we have. We too much communicate. We really communicate a lot. Sometimes we feel we are too communicative with our people. There are so many forums to communication. So the belongingness develops. So when such things happens, the mental stigma or such illness, yes, it has, but at the same time, the people are connected so well. So everybody has got 2-3 buddies within themselves. They settle themselves. Even then, what we did as an organization, so one more thing we did, and when we have spoken about this with the partners, when we realized that even if it is not COVID, this is not safe to go to hospital. So what if my people, somebody has got non-COVID disease, so pre-existing disease, blood pressure, sugar, or fever, or dysentery, or headache. So, and we don't want our people to go to hospital because of the rush at hospital. So we have quickly tied up with one of the, again, medical organization and established 24/7 medical health setup. That too, it was available on the regional languages as well. So like my Tamil guy, his mother can speak to the doctors over there on the Tamil language. At the same time, the North Wala can English or Hindi. Likewise, Kannada and Bengali and all we did. So here, in this case, we also tried to ensure that, hey, not to worry about. If anything, you feel restless about your anything health, here the solution is, number one. Number two, what we did with this, the town hall used to be a big event in our organization. And when this all happened, we said what to do with this. So we leadership team connected with all throughout pan India, and we invited our people, and we ensured them that it is your responsibility to take care of yourself, so that you don't indulge yourself into some incident where you feel pressurized, or some mental illness you could really be result of. Remaining part we will take care of. So not to worry about leave, the payments, the business, uh, the medication, be it COVID medication, be it normal medication, we take care of that. With this, our people has been very positively responding, and we do have a checkup. I would say my couple of people has been into traveling abroad. They got stuck, and we ensured that every week they have a call from India. Just say hi, hello, कैसे हो, सब ठीक चल रहा है, कोई दिक्कत तो नहीं है, registered करो, हम we are getting into it. So by this way, they know that, we all know that it's not that they are only, it's not, we know that we are there for each other any point in time. So don't hesitate that. I don't feel that this is, especially in our kind of work group, such problem is this. People are too communicative, too responsive, and they are open to, rather they come to us and say, sir, iska bhi kuch kara dijiye, kuch aisa lag raha hai. So like the couple of further incorporation, we did that. Having said this, the communication, the belongingness, and the empathy, these has been clear-cut functioning within any group, which ensure that people are happy, engaged, and comfortable with.
Sure. So opening multiple communication lines can facilitate employees to reach out to the organization in times of need, whether it's a physical well-being or psychological well-being. So that can, employees can actually think about which line of communication they feel the most comfortable with. So that's a very good point. So thank you for that, Mr. Tripathi. With that, I'll move to my next question, and I would request Ms. Simin to first share her response with us. Companies are partnering with health experts as well as with other partners to boost employee morale through engagement interventions, by redesigning their communication strategies, or to revisit their R&R structure, some of such interventions. So kindly elaborate about any such interventions that your company is undertaking and the kind of partnerships that you have built externally.
So there are a few things that we have been doing within our organization, and one of them has been related to ensuring that employees connect with each other. So, when you realize that you're not the only one who's going through this entire thing, there's a whole lot of other people similar to you, your peers, your team members, your, colleagues who are actually facing the same thing, then you don't feel so bad about it, Then you feel, okay, there's somebody else also, and we'll together be able to get, pull through and sort of get over with this, sort of overcome this challenge. So one of the things that we did initially was that we started something called My Lockdown Stories. And what we did was that we had everybody share their own experiences, and we made it some sort of a contest, that we said, okay, the first, the best 10 stories that we pick up will be published in our internal news magazine, so that everybody hears about it, and we will put it up on the internet for everyone to hear it. And surprisingly, what happened was, we received an overwhelming response in the first set of stories that came in. Most of the people were doing so much, like there was one guy who was actually covered by one of the news channels also, who was working on ensuring that the stray dogs in his colony are being fed during this lockdown. So when you hear this kind of thing, that somebody is, making the best of this, unfortunate, situation that we are all in, and still being able to contribute, you get motivated. You read about it and you feel, okay, if he can do it, why cannot not do it? And when you are motivated, then that's, that's the basic aim ultimately, that you make sure that your people stay motivated to give in their best. We got a few stories about, people who were, doing something for their maids, who were not able to come in. So a lot that, people were spending time with their kids, and they were teaching them how to cook or something, and they actually showed it in a form of a nice graphical way. And when people read about it, said, why can't we do it? Let us also contribute. So that actually brought in a lot of I would say energy, because after the first couple of days people were feeling low, and this sort of brought in some energy into the whole thing. We also started something called Motivational Mondays and Fun Fridays. So Motivational Mondays are again when we pick up stories from what is happening across, and we try and tell people that this is how people are coping up, how you can be doing this. Fun Fridays are when you're at the fag end of the week and you've been working hard, and that's when we have some sort of quizzes or some brain games and sort of try and engage people. I think the most important aspect during this whole pandemic has been how to ensure your people stay engaged. How do you ensure that people stay motivated and happy, and do not get stressed by this situation, and don't feel alone. So the constant connect that we've built in has helped in making people aware that they are not there alone. There is a whole lot of infrastructure and people and teams behind them. So come what may, if they ever need anything, there will be a lot of people who will be there for their support. So that is the comfort that we have tried to give in our organization. Besides, obviously, like Sanjeev mentioned, there has been tie-ups. We've always had tie-ups with hospitals, but during this period, we've reiterated and told everyone, this is, in case you need any help, this is where you can go. In case of any blood tests, these are the people that can come, things like that. So we have already, tried to communicate how to ensure physical well-being as well as mental well-being. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you, Ms. Sivan. In fact, one very interesting thing that you touched upon was social modeling. That, when you listen to positive things about what others are doing, the inherent thing that comes up is that you feel inspired, you feel that why can't I do this? So that's social modeling, which helps in several ways. I remember as a child, our parents used to always motivate us कि ये class में हमेशा first आता है, तू इससे दोस्ती क्यों नहीं करती है? So I remember that our parents unknowingly at that time were trying to enforce social modeling on us, and we resisted that so much.
Sujata, the interesting thing is a lot of this, we already know. It's just now we know the right jargons to use for these kind of things, so we know the right words to use for it. Otherwise, we were always doing it. It's not rocket science. Ultimately, our parents or grandparents or the entire humanity, they have been going through these kind of challenges, overcoming them. It's just the way we express it now is probably a little different.
Yes, now we kind of understand the context of how it fits in and how it can bring in a bigger good, if I might say so. So, Ms. Indrani, I would direct the same question to you, that in what ways are you partnering externally with health experts or other partners, to keep the employee morale going?
Yeah, Sujata, so almost, we heard the other panelists talk. So we have always had health insurance for our employees. But with the pandemic, we started sending out communications about help desks that we organized, and they could reach out to these people in the, on the help desk. If they had specific questions, we sent out communications around the hospitals, any telephone numbers. We in fact arranged a video conference with a doctor, with an empaneled doctor, so that employees, if they have specific questions, they can ask those questions. Because at the start of the lockdown, there were plenty of questions, and there were different theories about how we can prevent COVID or how it is spreading. So just to ensure that we hear it from a doctor is what we tried to organize for our employees. As far as partnerships go, online training programs, etc., they're already there, but we thought that we need to do something else in this time. So we partnered with a company for an online guided meditation program, and they also call it musical meditation. So, so that was something that was available for employees for over 2 months, and they could log in. There was an app. They could select the hours. In fact, many of them used it for falling asleep as well. So it was well received, and I think it was good because sometimes you also hear that people are suffering from insomnia. So it's helpful for that. During this recent International Day of Yoga, we used the entire week, and we tied up with another company for organizing yoga sessions for employees the entire week. So we had 2 sessions, morning and evening, and people actually did participate in, loads of participation we received, and it was wonderful to see them so excited about yoga. So we actually had competitions around Surya Namaskar, and so we had to announce, okay, so this is the person who actually did all of the postures correctly. So it really became a good, interesting engagement event for them. So like Sanjeev was mentioning, we also focus on town halls, and so the way we function is we are a combination of various business units that function independently. Now we try to organize town halls in all of these business units, and interestingly, what we have figured out is that doing a rewards and recognition in these town halls is much more exciting than just announcing it on a forum. So we have started using this to include the names of all people who have performed, maybe displayed, a value, an organizational value, which was just, interesting. And we're using these forums to recognize the employees. Another thing that we started was the experience sharing workshops for different cadres of employees. And this is, away from functional meetings. So we did not discuss about, either book closures or, product selling or any of it, but we simply discuss what's going on and, what would they like to share about the experience that's there. And I really wanted to share that I have attended some of those, and interestingly, people came up with different things. So yes, they have cooked a new recipe. They even spoke about the rainbow that was visible about a couple of weeks back or a little more, and that it was the first time that they had seen such a rainbow. I heard people talking about birds chirping, and so even though it might seem, okay, it's simple, it's childish, but I think it lets the employee to talk about these experiences, which otherwise would just be lost in the daily rut of events. So I think it has really been good for us. For the fun element of it, we also did our lockdown message sharing by the employees. So they put down their messages, they put it up on a picture, they took pictures with the message, and they sent it out to us. We created a big collage, and that was kind of put up on our intranet. We also did a campaign for showing your pets. So yes, we received plenty of beautiful pictures of employees with their pets. And the home workstations. So how are they working? Where are they working? How have they decorated their workstation? So little things, but yes, it came out very interesting. And so we did one session wherein employees actually jammed on a musical instrument as well. So that was quite an interesting evening. So all of them, of course, do not know percussions, but then those who did, I think they practiced separately, and then they said that, okay, we are going to show a jam session to you all. And we even did Antakshari online, so just to ensure that we get a lot of participation and ensure that our employees are feeling good about even though they are locked down, but then yeah, just to keep them engaged. So this is what we were doing.
Sure. Thank you, Ms. Indrani. In fact, it's interesting now how homework has a new meaning when you talk about it. You're talking about our work that we are doing at home, not the kids' homework. So that's an interesting thing. So with that, we are moving to our final question, and I would request all the panelists to take maybe 30 seconds to a minute to answer this question. I would not direct it to one or the other, but rather to all. So what are some tips for building hope and resilience within the teams And we could start with Mr. Tripathi, then move to Ms. Simin, and then finally to Ms. Indrani. So Mr. Tripathi, if you could share some tips for building hope and resilience within teams.
Yes, so in my view and experience, the belongingness and free communication is the really key factor where you could deal and develop a hope and a strong understanding, which in turn result as a resilience. We call it, you can also call self-esteem. So self-esteem derives with self-confidence. So likewise, hope and it will derive with this resilience. This is what I would like to summarize out here.
Okay, so I would like to say that, empathizing with your team members and your co-workers and knowing that you're not alone, sharing your experiences, that brings in hope. And you see, as you yourself just said, that inspirational stories that are fed into you, when you see that, you feel inspired. That is what brings in hope that you're not alone and that, you will be able to overcome this. To build in resilience, I think what is most important is that you are being appreciated, and that your team lead or your HOD or your head is able to understand that he needs to be focused on the end results and not the activities that go on. So when you do something well, people appreciate you, and those appreciations, if they are shared with your co-workers, that is what will bring in that it will up your self-esteem and it will bring in resilience in the organization.
Sure, thank you, Ms. Simmons. So Ms. Indrani, with you, some tips for building hope and resilience within the teams.
Okay, see, I think the mental health crisis that has stemmed from COVID-19 is serious and is going to be with us for some time to come. My thought would be, let's approach it with compassion, honesty, openness. We have already discussed about the various things that we are doing as organizations, and let's continue with that. Also, it's important to let people know that it's okay to be stressed out, it's okay to be burnt out and feel insecure sometimes. They just need a holding hand. In this, of course, a word of caution will be, I'm not talking about cases which might need medical help. Because we are not ready, neither equipped with dealing with those cases. So if you feel that your employee really needs a medical practitioner's help, guide the employee on that as well. It's not to be ashamed of. And I think if we continue doing all of this, we will emerge from this as better leaders, better people, and better companies.
Sure. Thank you, Ms. Indrani, for that. So with that, we are closer to the wrap of the focused questions that I was directing to our speakers, and we'll be soon moving to the question and answer session. Our audience has sent us several questions through email, so I'll be directing that one by one. Prior to that, a reminder to all of our attendees that our next Qbinar is scheduled for 3rd of July at 4 p.m. And please join us for Succeeding in a Volatile World, Business and Sales Priority, wherein CXOs will be joining us and they'll be speaking about how shall organizations revamp, revive their sales sooner than later, and how are they themselves within their organization managing to sell effectively and sufficiently in these challenging times. So please register for it. That is for 3rd of July at 4 p.m. With that, let's move to the question and answer session for today. One of the interesting questions that has come up, and I would direct this question to Mr. Tripathi. Mr. Tripathi, with the current pandemic, obviously organizations have relooked at their work from home policy. So several either organizations that didn't have it, they've designed it, and the ones that had it still realigned it to fit the current times. But is it high time that now firms also need to look at HR policies that can help to deal with psychological health problems that employees might face?
Sujata, the necessity is the mother of invention. And yes, I believe that within HR forum and policies and practices, we will have to, of course, tweak it make it more flexible or more transparent and more friendly, where people could really feel that they are not chased, they are not really monitored for everything, rather than it's more KPI based, it's more delivery based, and employees are given little extra freedom, flexibility, and transparency in place. So this would be the need I could feel, and organizations will have to do that.
Sure. So it is time that organizations should look at developing an HR policy even to address concerns such as these. With that, I would move my, like one of our speakers has already addressed this question in their response. However, this question is now directed to Ms. Simon. They are asking that what is the role of peers in ensuring the mental well-being within the organization?
So I believe very strongly in peer connects, okay, and that's the reason why we have a buddy system also in place for people. Initially, it was only for the newcomers, but during this pandemic, it has also been for other people or team members. So peers are, people who you can relate to very easily and who have similar experiences or are similar levels as yourselves. And so therefore, it's easier for you to open up and, approach a peer. And therefore, peer guidance or peer interaction is something which is very important, especially when you're going through a challenging phase, And this COVID-19 pandemic has actually, made us go through a lot of, different kind of experiences which we didn't probably ever had to face earlier. So it is a time when our friends or our peers from either the offices or our friends from outside the office are the people who are helping us the most. I mean, obviously family is the most important, but then peers are equally important, I would say. The role is extremely important, and therefore it also becomes important for organizations to ensure that peers are also trained in identifying any sort of a symptom or a sign of not being mentally okay.
Sure. Thank you, Ms. Simon, for that. So the next question, it is directed to Ms. Indrani. Like we had spoken a little while ago about the superwoman syndrome. So the question is a little related to that. So it is about how companies shall deal with female employees who have kids at home. Earlier, they had the liberty of dropping their kids at daycare prior to proceeding for work. However, there are companies that are now asking employees to rejoin. So how can, first of all, how shall companies address this area, as well as how should female employees themselves work around this?
Okay. Yes, I know, we are ending lockdown and, so we are reopening now. Most organizations in the manufacturing sector have already started opening, and in the ITS, we are going to follow suit. So one, I think, concern area that mothers would feel is dropping their kids to daycare now because of the pandemic. So yes, it could be challenging. So if you have family members who could take care of the children, then yes, it's an advantageous position for you. But in case you were a part of a nuclear family and both of you as the husband and wife have to go out for work, I think here the companies can ensure flexibility, offer some more work from home for the woman to figure out a solution. See, many organizations might not have the feasibility of bringing the child to the office because we might not have the requisite infrastructure to house a child. So in these cases, I think the best part is to offer flexibility to the lady to continue working from home for a certain more time. The idea is to just ensure that, yes, whatever the task is happening is that they are accountable for it, as long as that is possible. I think this can be offered so that the woman is able to concentrate on work without being, worried about the child and the child care, and can enhance efficiency.
Sure. Thank you, Ms. Indrani, for that. Another question, and I think I'll ask this question to Mr. Tripathi. Well, is work from home better or worse for mental health of employees?
Our experience has been it's a better for employees. Our people are quite, we keep saying within our own culture, to थोड़े दिन work from home क्यों नहीं ले लेता? So sometimes we used to say तो छुट्टी क्यों लेता? Generally we avoid saying, so we said थोड़े दिन तो work from home ले ले. So in our culture, we have huge number of work from home, and somehow our internal culture support that, especially the female associates. To answer the Siemens, connecting with the Siemens here, I would say one of the female colleague shared a couple of days back, Sanjeev, बच्चे का कुछ online classes भी होता है. So we were supposed to go for a call, and she said, I'm getting my mom trained for that. So I'll have to get into, okay, can we have a flexibility in place? So it's all, I guess, as I said in my previous talk, our main focus should be on the KPI output, which is based on the happiness of the people, whether it comes from work from home or attending the office on daily or traveling, or somebody has got great IPI, interpersonal relation skill, that while from Delhi, sitting in Delhi, he can talk all the business partners in north, south, east, west, and get your business done. That's all right. That's all right. So in our case, work from home has been quite advisable, enjoyed by all of us. So we find it better.
Sure, sure. Thank you, Mr. Tripathi. So Ms. Siman, the next question is for you. Well, if you could please share a few points on the role of leadership when it comes to ensuring psychological health of employees at large.
I think it's extremely important, and the leader needs to lead by example. Only then they will be able to expect the same from their team members. When it comes to, giving flexibility to team members, as Sanjeev was saying, work from home is not a very, I would say, not a very normal concept in a lot of organizations. I mean, and especially when it's a manufacturing setup, you don't really give flexibility to your employees that, okay, you can go and work from home. Although, I mean, from an HR point of view, we've always been asking for that flexibility. I think this has kind of forced everyone to sort of step up, and yes, now they realize that they can give that flexibility. So the role of a leader, is extremely important in ensuring that, your team member understands that you are flexible, that you are empathetic, that you understand that they could have problems, like Sanjeev just mentioned, the lady has a child who has an online class. I mean, you cannot expect her to be available at all times, In the house, she needs to take care of that kid also, who may be probably sharing the same computer for all you know. So she needs to sort of make sure that her work is happening. So again, focusing on the outcomes and not focusing on how it is done, or making sure that you are flexible. You don't have to be very strict on the timelines, unless of course it is something very urgent, or otherwise you need to make sure that your team member understands that you are with them. In fact, one of my team members, she was not being productive in the initial few days, and her immediate boss, who reports into me, he came back and told me, ma'am, I'm really not able to get any work done, and she's just refusing to discuss anything with me. And so when I actually went in and I talked to her, I found out that she was under a lot of stress because her sister had gotten bitten by a dog, and she wasn't able to take her to the doctor, and she had she's a single mother. So she had a problem with, the child being alone. And so she was getting a lot stressed. And then I told her, listen, don't worry. I understand, you can take your time, take a few days. We will not pressurize. So, just talking to a team member is what helps. And that's what I'm saying, as a leader, it's important for leaders to understand that just connecting, just empathizing, understanding their issues is what gives them the comfort. And that's what makes you a taller leader, I think.
Sure. Thank you, Ms. Simon. Well, I'll just move to a final question. So I would request all the speakers to, briefly, maybe in 20, 30 seconds, if you could share your views. Yes, COVID-19 has brought so many questions to the forefront that organizations are either proactively or reactively, they are responding. And several organizations are doing splendidly well on this front. It could be the physical safety aspect or the psychological well-being of their employees, or that aspect from that perspective. However, this is about the current times. What about future? So in the longer run, would organizations sustain the efforts that they had initiated during these times? Would organizations look at having a good, solid strategy in place to ensure the psychological well-being of their employees? So, Mr. Tripathi, if you could start, then we could move to Ms. Indrani and finally close with Ms. Simon.
This question has been for quite some time before us, and there were multiple. It's not that the pandemic; there are certain other scenarios also going on into India, which is off late started weeks or 2 weeks time. You know what I'm referring to. What personally I believe that as well as India is concerned, this pandemic is going to be a big opportunity for all of us as an Indian market. We are the same country growing to the pace of 6 to 7% GDP. We are the same country has been big time seen by the FDIs, the international investors. We are the same country has been our labor laws being reviewed and got into the simplified into four basic main courses into this. So this pandemic. So I don't know how the Europe would going to get impacted out of that. But as we all know that initially Asia was the leader, then shifted to Europe, then went to US. So if we see the 200 years from here, now the time is coming that especially in our kind of country, the kind of diversity we have, the kind of multiple culture, the kind of the extreme hot, extreme cold, extreme rain, such scenario we have, the kind of young generation we have, this is going to be an opportunity for us as well as our business and our productivity is concerned. This is my strong belief.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Tripathi. So, Ms. Indrani, the same question to you and then to Ms. Simon, that in the longer run, like how do organizations sustain the efforts that they have invested towards the psychological well-being of their employees?
So, some days back, I was on another call and there was a joke that was going on that who do you think is responsible for ensuring automation of your of the HR practices? Is it the CTO? Is it the CEO? Or is it COVID-19? So 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 whether we were ready or we were not ready, we all have as organizations taken some different methods or different things that we have done to ensure that our employees stay productive. So we have automated our systems. In case it was not automated, a lot of companies have now recently done things so that they can automate their systems. Now, there are plenty of organizations who have also decided that they would remain work from home, and they are trying to build on capabilities so that in the next year or the next 2 years, they are able to perform work from home for majority of their employees. Of course, the exceptions are wherein the person needs to be on the shop floor for production. So that is a different case. But then, yes, so if employees are contemplating of going work from home 100% of the times, there is absolutely no way that we can leave what we have started. In fact, it is a learning. As Sanjeev pointed out, yes, labor laws are also undergoing changes because we have realized that, yes, it is time to keep continuing the work that we have done in this space. So if people are operating from home, yes, the infrastructure costs will really go down. So, and of course, the question that you were asking about the, the psychological well-being of an employee, why not? Let's continue with that, because I think in this phase, in the last, 60, 90 days, we have seen that all of these measures, they are not vastly expensive, but the amount of motivation that we are able to build into the teams is definitely outstanding. So I think we should and we will continue with that, because it's leading to good results. If something is leading to good results, why would you want to stop it? So that's my take on it.
Sure. Thank you, Ms. Indrani. So, Ms. Simin, the closing comments by you on this question about organizations to continue their efforts with regards to the psychological well-being of their employees.
So Sujata, for every, I would say, a cloud, there's a silver lining, and there is an opportunity with every challenge that comes in. And organizations that have, reacted positively and sort of overcome the challenges are the ones that are going to thrive in the coming days. We have learned over the last couple of months that there is no amount of challenges that are thrown at us that we cannot overcome, and we have learned that we are all a resilient lot, and that we will be able to make do with whatever is given, and we are able to make the best of it. As organizations, I think we have changed a lot. And Rani says about digitization. Yes, I mean, we were all talking about it and we were all attempting to do it. This has actually thrown us into the fourth gear, and sort of this pandemic has been actually a catalyst to ensure that we become, digital in a very, very fast pace. Besides that, I think the cultural shift that has happened, in terms of the mindsets that were rigid of, not accepting a work from home culture, or not accepting that people can be not available at certain times, or that they will deliver at their own pace, or that they can deliver while still being at home with their kids and everything. That mindset has changed. And I think organizations need to kind of build up on that. This has been a positive change for all of us. And this will, help us go into the positive forward moving trajectory now. So I think we should continue.
Sure. Thank you, Ms. Simin, for that. So with that, we are closer to a conclusion for today's panel discussion. I first of all take this opportunity to thank all of our audience who had joined us on YouTube. Thank you for sending us so many questions and so many really relevant and good questions. And finally, I take this opportunity to thank all of our esteemed speakers, Ms. Indrani, Mr. Sanjeev, as well as Ms. Simin, who joined us, who shared their insights, their learnings, and some perspective. You're leaving us with some food for thought for the coming time. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for giving us your valuable time and insights. So this is something that organizations actually need to take a note of, and especially HR leaders. They need to drive this from the front. We have to understand that psychological health problems do exist. Let's not try to hush them. Let's try to take away the the taboo or the stigma that has been associated with psychological problems that people face or experience, and let's extend a helping arm to our peers who might be experiencing such problems. Let's identify, learn about the symptoms, develop empathy, and think about the ways of helping them forward. So with that note, this is Creating Values Qbinar for 26th of June at the final stage. Thank you so much. And I hope all of our attendees will join us next week on 3rd of July for our next Qbinar, Succeeding in a Volatile World, Business and Sales Priorities. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.